What is up, people of YouTube? I'm your host Vernon. This is Sunset Park. Let's fish that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Sunset Park has been stocked a week ago with some channel catfish. I think this will be the last stocking for this season, as I think that the next stocking will be some rainbow trout. So for that reason, I think I have a limited time to still find some catfish. If you've regularly watched my videos, you will know that I target certain fish during certain times of the year. That is because certain fish are easier to catch at certain times. Something like carp and catfish, you can catch them year round, but it's a lot easier in the summer months. So before I pack away both my carp and catfish gear, I just want to catch one last good catfish. Okay, but what am I going to be doing differently in this video? Well, it's quite simple. I talk to other fishermen, people that fish here quite regularly, ask them what baits are they using, and it seems like the most used baits are hot dogs and shrimp. So I'm using on my one rod some hot dogs and shrimps. Let's see if we get some catfish on that. But because we're allowed to use a second rod, I want to use something different, something old school on my second rod. So obviously trying to find some channel catfish at night, it's a lot better. These fish prefer the dark, but I don't want to just make a couple of nighttime videos, so I'm doing it out in the day. You can still catch them in the daytime, so it just adds a little bit of an extra challenge. Now the old school bait I was referring to is simple braid. But I'm not just going to be using bread. I'm going to be mixing the bread with an egg. In this little container I have an egg. I'm going to mix the egg and the bread together, making a dough and putting that on my hook. Alright peeps, like I explained, bread is a very old school way of fishing. It works pretty well in park ponds because even though there are signs saying don't feed the birds, people often feed the birds. So these fish are used to eating something like bread. But even though this is a great way to catch fish, people quite often use it to catch carp. I've actually caught more catfish using this method than carp on the bread and egg mixture. That is why I want to be using that out there today. But I do want to point out that bread is actually very harmful to the fish. If you want to use bread to fish, you are of course allowed to do so, but please don't bring out an entire loaf and try and catch all the fish using bread. The bread is bad for the fish, they get bloated, they die quite easily. So do try and limit yourself to using only one little slice of bread. Clearly a good spot, already getting hits, but still small fish, not something big grabbing the entire hook. Just nibbling on my baits. Okay, so my egg and bread mixture is working quite well. It actually gets destroyed before it even hits the bottom. The fish are already on it. So very effective, but they are of course small fish. So I'm gonna try and mix things up by using some night crawlers to see whether I can actually land some of these smaller fish. First little fish for today, tiny little carp. Let's get him back in the water. Okay, so when I'm saying I'm using hot dogs, I'm using my hot dog and cherry flavored Kool-Aid hot dogs. And on the second hook, I'm using some raw shrimp. Might have something on one of our baits. If there is anything, it's quite small. indeed tiny baby carp that went for our little shrimp. Let's get him off the hook. So not the fish we're looking for, especially catching him on this big circle hook, but these tiny fish are very hungry, willing to go for anything. So even though he stole my bait, let's get him back into the water. And off he goes. There we go. Finally have channel catfish on. This one actually was on some shrimp. Swapped over to some shrimp on this one. Casted it out, and before I could even reel up my slack, this little channel cat finally went for the shrimp. So we finally got a channel cat. Nice, decent stocked one. Of course, there's a dead one floating in the water nearby. Someone released one, didn't make it. So let's get ours out of the water and ensure we get a good proper release on him. Alright guys, so nice, decent, proper channel catfish. Took 3 hours on most of my baits. Quickly want to get a weight on this fish. So this is a 3.5 pound. So 3.5 pounds, 1.5 kilogram channel catfish. But let's quickly get this guy some oxygen. Okay, so catfish tend to be sturdy. They can survive longer outside of the water than other fish, but you don't want to keep them out too long. I think it's time we get this one back into the water. Of course, this is a good size if you want to keep catfish. Not looking to keep any catfish a day, so I'm going to release this one so that another angler might catch him. Alright, so finally got my big channel catfish. I think it's about time we release this guy, so let's let him go. And there he goes. Alright ladies and gents, I set out this morning to catch one of these big stocked channel catfish, and after 3 hours of constantly changing the baits and having to rebait with all the small fish stealing my baits, finally landed my big channel catfish. Now of course this was eventually landed on some shrimp, so I have to give a shout out to all the people that said try hot dogs, try some shrimp. And that just goes to show that you should never be afraid to ask the other fishermen what they are using. A lot of these guys spend way more time out here than I do. They know what's working, so don't be afraid to approach other fishermen. I mean, you already have something in common, so talking to these people is actually quite easy. And more often than not, you'll find that people are quite eager to talk to you, tell you what they found have been working. Getting some hits on this rod. Alright guys, but that's going to be it for my catfishing session. But I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do give me a little thumbs up. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, it's the big red button. You press that and it says subscribed, turn gray. If you hit the little bell icon next to that, it will notify you of when I upload videos. I do weekly videos for you guys. If something happens on this rod, I'll show you that. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. And that's what we had, double up on tiny little carp. Okay, so this little one was actually hooked. So we're going to get him back into the water. And our second little carp, this one was actually not hooked. He was actually wrapped around with some of the line. So let's get him back into the water. And there he goes.